My name is Fyer-Huné. I'm with Five Films, and this is the lovely CJ Walley, who is a screenwriter, film producer, and also the founder of Script Revolution. So, absolutely everything. So, introduce yourself, CJ.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm CJ Walley. As mentioned, I'm a writer producer at the moment, based in Staffordshire Moorlands in the UK, and I have at the moment one feature film to my name.
And is it that one called Break Even?
That's Break Even indeed. You can find it on IMDb. Stars Tassia Teles from the 100. It's got James Callis from Castlevania, Battlestar Galactica, and it's got Steve Guttenberg, who's like a great actor who was from my childhood, who was in things like Police Academy and Three Men and a Little Baby.
Well, do you want to give a bit of information on that while we're talking? Because this is a big deal. This is not something that can just be easily ignored. Like, let's go to Break Even.
Well, I went over to, I guess it started a couple of years ago. I had a producer find me on the internet. He's a long-time producer-director. He's got a #1 blockbuster to his name, Gridiron Gang. He's done everything. He's seen everything. And he found me and said he was going to retire. And he read one of my scripts and said, I want to make movies again. And I wrote my first assignment for him in 2000 and that'd be 2018 now. And then this time last year, I was in LA and we were shooting the film. And that was a great experience. And now that's just coming out of post-production and we're hoping to finalize everything and get that out, on TV at the moment with what's going on.
Wow. In the USA, was that recently?
What the shooting? The shooting was this time last year. So I went out in March, and then we shot through March and April, and then I came back in May. So about 6 weeks.
Gosh, very fast and moving, and I can't wait to see it. Do you know a date that it might go?
I don't know a date. It's a really exciting film though. It's female-led. We've got so many female characters in this. It's really cool. That's a big thing for me, and it's a really exciting. It's kind of an action thriller. We've got boat chases, we've got car chases, got a bit of gunplay, but there's a lot of like quite clever political strategizing by the characters, even though it's within quite a normal mainstream concept. So it is a low-budget film, but it looks 10 times better than what it actually cost, and nothing is finalized yet. The issue we've got right now is the industry's in a kind of chaotic state. Acquisition departments are slowing down, things that people aren't working in offices. So at the moment we're kind of hoping we can get this through and we can get this on screens whilst everyone's at home, because as we know, the theatrical world's hurting right now. So his fingers crossed.
I've got a good feeling if you brought it up right now with what's going on, that would be perfect. Not saying it's perfect what's going on, but turn the bad into a good, and it's so good for you at the moment, wouldn't it? With everyone's Netflix and chilling or iPlayer and everything. So, and I've seen the trailer and it doesn't look low budget. I'm going to be really honest. I did not think it was low budget at all. When I've seen the trailer, I'm like, looks really high definition and the guns and everything. It's not like someone's got a paper gun and gone pow pow. No way.
Thank you. That means a lot, and that's what we aim to do. And the team that I'm involved with in making it, that's what our speciality is making things that look like they cost 10 times more than they actually did. Because that's what we've all got to do now, haven't we? In that kind of low budget world.
Exactly. So let's go into it about you then, CJ. How did you get into everything that you do? Like, because obviously you do a lot. So where did it all start?
It all started 8 years ago, 2012, and I'm very open about this. It actually started with a mental health crisis, a personal breakdown. I'd never ever done anything with film before. I was in a completely different career, and I literally had this episode where I broke down and I sobbed and I cried. I ended up on the floor, cat staring at me, confused. It was really kind of a big kind of moment in my life. And what was interesting was I'd always loved film. I'd always had these ideas in my head that were keeping me awake at night, but I'd never connected the dots and actually thought that I could write, because I came out of school thinking I was terrible at English. And for some reason, I ended up in this graphic design world, and the film thing just kind of passed me by. So I'm a very late entry into that world.
Any more? I was waiting for some more stuff than I was.
Well, you know, it's been 8 years. I've been working from home during that time, trying my best, trying to juggle everything around, you know, previous freelance work and things like, and life and relationships and everything else. And I got this really exciting thing that happened early on. Amazon Studios were just starting to get into the film business, and they picked out one of my scripts in the first year I was writing, a script called For Your Dreams, and they made this big song and dance about it, and they made it a notable project on their website. And this was like out of 10,000 scripts, and they just picked about 50. So that was a huge motivator that I took from that. But I knew I had to learn. I knew I had to get my craft down. So I spent about 5 or 6 years just writing short scripts and giving those away to filmmakers, to students, to people that were just getting into it and things like that. It taught me a lot about the business and things like that. And then I read all the books. I started blogging like crazy. Like I just kept blogging and blogging and blogging, which is kind of like the online version of networking, in my opinion, these days. And I gradually built up this kind of reputation, and people started to notice what I had to say. And that was how producer Shane Stanley, that's how he found me. He read some of my blogs and thought, hey, this guy, I like what he has to say. Maybe he writes well. And yeah, so he started reading my scripts, and that was it. He wanted to make one of them. It wasn't quite commercial enough for what we wanted to do. We adapted it. He wanted to make changes. I said, I'll write you a new script. Don't you worry. He couldn't keep me back. I was like, I'm going. I'll do whatever you want. And that's how we got break even.
Wow. That's a journey, that is. And it's quite a recent journey. To know that you started quite later on, that's really good, because it shows that a lot of people go, oh, I can't get into it because I didn't go uni, or wasn't brought up with this. It shows that no, there's no stopping you. You can start any age at any point.
Yes, I mean, there's some great examples of that. I think Ang Lee, he was, I don't think he had any job. He was at home with his wife. I think he was in his 40s before he started directing. And there's, you know, it is never too late. You can make it happen fast. And you do have value later, you know, in your life when you come in. You have this energy that perhaps you never released before, and then you can really go for it and maximize your opportunities.
So this wasn't one of my questions, but going back to you saying you're quite open about it, has film actually helped your mental health then? Has it boosted you in the way of, like, I don't know, like your support system?
No, not at all. The complete opposite, I'd say. Writing, particularly because I went crazy on the first year, and crazy is a bit of an uncomfortable term to use, but you know, I mean, it genuinely was a madness that I went through. And I wrote novels, I wrote scripts like crazy, and I doubled down and everything. The problem was, what I was doing is I was digging deep into all this emotional baggage and trauma that was deep down within myself. And it was all overflowing. So, you know, I had insomnia, you know, all the bad stuff that comes with really bad depression, you know, maladaptive daydreaming, all that kind of stuff. I was crying all the time. My jaw was hurting from it and everything else. But I think in the long term, what I love about the film industry from a career standpoint is it's so kind, and people are so open and decent, naturally mainly decent, particularly in the creative side, maybe not so in the business side, but it's definitely where I am. It's kind and it's decent. And people really care about one another, and that's what I love so much about this. Is everyone's rooting for one another. They care about how people are emotionally, and I love being wrapped up in that, as opposed to the corporate world where you're not really allowed to talk about this stuff.
No, I feel like the creative side allow you to come together. Not the business side as much, because that's a bit scary. That's why I'm definitely not in that part. No. So what would be your favourite part of your journey then that you've been on? I know that it's still going on, but what would be your best moment?
There's these 3 standout moments for me. And what's really interesting is it's not within the actual writing. I mean, there's highs and lows of doing that. It feels good to finish the script. It feels good to option whatever. But I think an artist always wants to get in front of their audience and give the audience the medicine that that artist is creating. So the first big moment for me was when it was a young female student in London called Sandra Mitrovic from Serbia. She was the first person ever who actually made one of my short scripts. It's called Toughest Role. It was about the mental health crisis and kind of fake persona a female actor was going through. It meant a lot to her. And she made this short film. And that was huge for me for that to happen. That was within the first year of writing. So that was big. That was the first time I'd ever hit and play on something that had been made from a script of mine. Hard to do, even harder to press it a second time sometimes. And then obviously the next big one was making a feature film. Like, you just can't get away from that. You know, I'm not really into glitz and glamour. I'm not really into the whole fame thing and everything else. But going to LA, being able to, you know, to land in LAX and feel the wheels touch the runway and go, oh, I'm here, I'm on my own, and I'm here, and I'm going to make these new friends. And that first time they shoot a scene, and it's over and it's done. It's like, oh, wow, it happened. You know, and you go up and you hug the leads and you're like, this is the first time it's ever happened. For me, that was huge. And then there was this amazing moment of validation, because let's face it, we all desperately crave validation. And that was Steve Gutenberg on set. It was the first time I got that kind of starstruck feeling and everything. I walked up, shook his hand, hi, I'm the writer. And he looked at me, he said, great script. Love the pacing. And it was just like, it's there. I'm validated now.
Wow, that must have been crazy. And I love them three moments, because it's almost like it's gone in a step. Like, my favorite moment was my first thing that's ever happened, then it was a feature film, and then it was a famous person going, this is brilliant. So it shows you that they're brilliant moments. I bet you've got many, many, many more, but they're the top three. Would you like to say any more?
I mean, I think it was things like, I remember getting my first script option, and I was sitting in the cinema with my wife at the time, and it had just happened, and I just got the contract through, and we're watching 3 billboards just outside Missouri, I think, and which is a Steve McDonough film, which I love his work. And I was looking on my phone and the contract was on there. And I think it's that kind of moment where you're celebrating it in an environment that means a lot with someone who means a lot to you. That sticks. And that's another moment that really means a lot.
You've got like a blood rush. I'm like, it's all excited. It's brilliant. And I love how the journey goes and stuff. But I hate asking this question now, because you just made me go a bit buzzy. But what's been your main hurdles then? Because obviously I understand it's a very hard industry, so screenwriting and producing. So what do you find your main hurdles?
The biggest hurdle I've had to face is when I started in 2012, my spelling and grammar was abysmal. And it wasn't abysmal because I was poorly educated or anything like that. I do not have an eye for spotting errors in my own work. I just go for it, and a different part of my brain opens up, and I'm not very good at I can't see errors. Like, you know, people say proofread.
Oh, I can't see it. People have to look at mine, or Grammarly is my best friend.
I've heard people use that. And you know, and so that was really hard, because when I went to school, my English teacher didn't like me one bit towards the end. You know, I was put in a middle set for a while. That English teacher was fantastic, but when I got moved to the top set and I was kind of the least accomplished child in that class, I was a class clown. And it killed English for me, even though I did actually get a reason. I think I got a B something, you know, B plus or A minus or something, just fluke. Well, I saw my English teacher afterwards, and she said to me, "I'll never forgive you for doing that," because she didn't feel I deserved it. So
did not say that.
I spent years. It's horrible, right? And it sits with you. And I spent, you know, I guess effectively, you know, a decade and a half thinking that I was too bad at the act of typing to be a writer. I mean, it seems absurd now that I'm, you know, that I am a writer in any way at all. It still seems crazy. So that was a huge obstacle. So a lot of people tell you you can't make more than 2 typos in a script. People won't take you seriously, and it's nonsense in my opinion. But overcoming that stigma, I found hard. A lot of fear in my head, a lot of fear that I could never do it. And I'm getting better. But it's still, my producer thinks it's hilarious because I hand my stuff over and he's like, oh, we've got the usual CJ errors. And then you've got the whole English American thing and juggling that, which is fun. Sometimes I basically talk in American sometimes now. It's, I just use all the American terms. But the other big thing, and I think it's something everyone faces if they aren't born into Los Angeles, is being outside of where 90% of everything is happening. Being this guy I was in Wolverhampton when I started, then Newcastle-under-Lyme, in the Potteries. I'm now in the Staffordshire Moorlands. Being there just felt like I may as well have been a galaxy away from where things are happening. And you're trying to go out there on the internet and hello, it's me, it's CJ, I'm in the middle of nowhere, please listen to me. And of course, the industry wants to meet people, word of mouth travels by people, people who know other people. So that was the other big obstacle. So it was this kind of, in my head, I'm thinking, I'm a fraud, I can't write, I shouldn't be writing. And there's no point anyway because I'm too far away. I'm 5,000 miles away.
Wow. EJ, it's big hurdles. I mean, I completely feel you with the spelling stuff because obviously, as I told you, I'm dyslexic. Like, I even wrote one of my questions down and you were like, "I don't make sense like this." And it didn't make sense at all. And it is hard. One, that teacher shouldn't have said that. That's awful. Like, don't say anything. If nothing nice is going to come out your mouth, don't say it at all. That's what I say.
Yeah.
But and the being far away, like that must be quite difficult. Coming from a very nice little Staffordshire and then going all the way to LA must have been.
Yeah. Talk about feel. It's that kind of, it's almost like that funny scene you get in a movie where the country bumpkin goes to the big city and they kind of take the straw out of their mouth and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" and everything like that. But the other thing about it is not having a filmmaking social structure that's around you. Like, Manchester's okay, Birmingham's got a bit, London's got a bit more. But Stoke-on-Trent, there is like Movie Mavericks, for example, which is one of the few groups, I was able to go to some of their things, and I was able to go to Rain Dance in London, which I do every year and I enjoy doing. And I remember the first time I went to Rain Dance, I went to my first filmmakers meeting. I'm like, I'm actually around people who think the same and share all this kind of kinship. That was huge. And that's something I miss the most, is just not being able to be around film people. I mean, this virtual way is fantastic, but I wish there was more.
Oh, right, that's why I moved from Stoke. I moved from Stoke to go to Manchester because I was like, guys, I'm gonna go meet film people, and it's still really hard because no one's got a banner saying I'm a film person. So there is no, it's so hard. It's not like artists are quite easy. No, they are easier to find. I feel like artists are, and spoken word, but us filmies, we keep ourselves to ourselves, which we shouldn't.
Oh, that's so true. And we're terrible for cutting one another down. We're terrible for trying to do our own things. And it's such a collaborative art form that you need such a team of people to actually do anything. But I had the strangest thing. I moved house in Newcastle-under-Lyme to a nice little terrace somewhere. It was fantastic. And I walk outside one morning and the neighbour's walking by his little forecourt wall and he says it's CJ, yeah? And I was like, yeah. And he says... and I was with my wife at the time before we got divorced, and he said, which one of you is a screenwriter? And I said, well, I'm a screenwriter. And this guy, who was a scenes of crimes officer, but he said, oh, I screenwrite. And he had a movie premiering at something around the Cannes Film Festival. And he was and I couldn't believe he was probably the only screenwriter in Potteries who had something that was actually filmed and being screened at festivals. And I live next door to him, and it's that kind of weirdness sometimes.
Oh, I bet that was lovely. I bet it was so warm inside. Like, oh my god, like one of my people is here.
And you and I, when we were speaking about this meeting, stuff like that, and you're asking where I was. I mean, we effectively went to schools across the road from one another. And that's the weird thing about this. So sometimes you're closer than you think to people, than you realize. And I've had some friends now who I went to school with, and they're now going back and trying to make the short films they wanted to make 20 years ago because they've seen what I'm doing, and they're kind of thinking, okay, I believe I can do this again now.
That's brilliant. You are now pushing over people, which is brilliant. I feel like some people need that as well. Then you're going, well, if he can do it, I'm going to do it. So it shows that you put them people into the path. Like, knowing that now you are in Stoke-on-Trent, like, that blew my mind. When you were like, yeah, I'm a living Cheadle, I was like, no way. I went there at school, and you're now there and you've done a feature film. It's really good. It's really inspiring because it makes me realise that I may have left Stoke thinking there was nothing there, but if I ever want to get back to Stoke, you can make it wherever you are. It's just a place. It's just a location. It's not where you live that's going to get at you. It's what you do. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And to a degree, I actually think there's a little bit of an advantage in some ways of being in the middle of nowhere, because it makes you aim for the top of the mountain. And it's very easy to kind of end up in these little areas sometimes, and those areas can hold you down. If like I know that like most cities have writing groups, and you can end up joining that writing group wanting to go and write for Hollywood, but then you kind of end up devoting your time for writing for kind of a small group of people. And sadly, they're not necessarily always going somewhere. I know that sounds horrible to say, but it is the reality sometimes of small groups, and your time can get sucked into that. So there is that as well.
No, that's something that I never even thought of, which is a brilliant way to think of it, really, is you do sometimes get very sucked into stuff. I know that I do. I get very like, doing one thing and stuff. So you're just going to open your doors and stuff. So what is your style of producing, going back to your producing now? Have you got a certain style?
Yeah, I mean, my kind of goal in life is I love like B movies and things like that. I love pulpy stuff. I love exploitation, but that word is kind of loaded, even though all films are effectively exploitation films. But I love the stuff that was happening in the 70s. It was kind of deep and meaningful. It was edgy and it was gritty. I like gritty, real things, and I love high octane entertainment that kind of blows people away. That's what I really like, and I want to bring that back, and but a more modern version of it. I want a more progressive version of that, because my thing's writing female leads, but I want strong, multifaceted, powerful female leads, not, I don't know quite the language used, but not too objectified. It's not about how they look, it's about how they think and how they act in their world. So with Break Even, it was a real opportunity to make something that actually was quite gritty and had that edge, but was still quite mainstream to a certain extent. So we're kind of on that edge with that. But what we have this very like run and gun attitude to filming, and it is a case of multicam setup, minimal skeleton crew, but safe, and everyone's taken care of. But we are just going for it every day. It's unbelievable what we and the camaraderie that comes out of that's fantastic. But what's great is that texture makes it into the film, and that's what's really good. So the films that we're making now, they have car chases, they have gunplay, but it's top quality production with known talent in there. But it's edgy and it's gritty, and it's made in a set which is primarily very, very kind. And that's quite rare to get, particularly in LA. They're aggressive places, usually sets are, but not the kind of sets we run. So yeah, they're kind of like feisty. They're quite feisty little films that we're making. That are really kind of like high emotion, very high emotion, very intense.
Can I come with you, please? That sounds brilliant. I did my dissertation on the 1970s films. The grittiness in, you are right, and I love how you don't want to objectify women. I mean, I'm not a feminist or anything at all. I love men, I love women, I'm happy with everyone, but I feel like that's brilliant that their style in the kindness in LA must be hard to get, because I know that obviously Americans are a bit more cutthroat, not in a nasty way, because it works for them, but it sounds nice that you've brought that kindness to it as well, like a family sort of feel of bringing everyone together. So
Yeah, that's so true. Actually, it is a family sort of film, and that's the benefit of having a producer that's been always, you know, had an international #1, gone to the Cannes Film Festival with it, done all that, and done everything else as well around that. Knows everyone, has seen everything, and when you've been through all that, you really appreciate the power of people and connection between those people. You know, what kills me is there was this fantastic streaming service called Tubi, which was free to watch, and they had all those old 70s movies on there, and I could watch them week after week after week because they were so ambitious for their time. They had so much to say that was quite profound, but they were doing it with, like, you know, end reels that were different, you know, color temperatures and different stock and things like that. And the sound was all messy, but I loved them. I absolutely loved just something about that. And, you know, you know, we're in really interesting times with the topic of female leads and what makes a strong female lead and things like that. And although those movies are known for being exploitative and perhaps objectifying, actually, if you go and look, you know, the basis for Charlie's Angels is there. The basis for a lot of fantastic female characters are there, and they were presented in a very empowered way back then. We just seem to be going in circles with this.
I completely agree with that. Definitely. I don't feel like some things are even meaning to objectify. It's just that we live in a time now where we objectify absolutely everything. Like, we can't even look at stuff about getting offended and stuff. Like, something could be, I don't know, you can wear, you got big hoop earrings, you're a chat boy, or this. Like, we are very judgy now. Do you know what I mean? As I wear big hoops.
Crazy, everything's cutting down. I was even worried, you know, I mean, I've got an old General Lee picture up here, you know, and that's a controversial symbol now because of the Confederate flag on the roof, and that's quite rightly so that it is controversial. People should be aware of what it means. But
I suppose it was a car.
So most people, it was a great car show from the 1970s, which, interestingly enough, on that topic, was one of the first TV series that actually had a brunette female lead in it, and that was so controversial at the time. That was in the 70s, you know, Catherine Bach, and they almost tried to replace her because she wasn't a blonde. And, you know, there's all these fantastic stories. So actually a progressive story from within something that now is seen a little bit controversial, but I could talk all day on that.
That's brilliant. I didn't even know that. Crazy, that blonde and what would I be classed as?
Well,
as like a little boy.
Break the system now, I think.
So, now go to screenwriting, because you've done a bit of producing. What do you really enjoy about screenwriting?
I think for me, the fundamental enjoyment in screenwriting that I've kind of discovered from it, besides getting the demons out and everything else, is you get to communicate life truths. It's all about life affirming values. It's all about taking experience you have of life and finding these truths that you spot within that. And they can be harsh truths. They can be really, really tough truths to take in. And then you put that in the conceit of a story, and you wrap that in a lesson, and you wrap that around a protagonist who has this, you know, this realization and this acceptance about that. You know, talking about McDonough, a great writer, playwright, you know, who did you know, 3 Billboards Just Outside Missouri and 7 Psychopaths and films like that. You know, he's always said every single character in his films has a life-affirming value, even the villain. And we all know the famous scene in Bruges where the villain thinks that he shot a child in the face, and he immediately kills himself because he has a rule in life that you just do not do that, and you fall on your sword if you do. So, I mean, that's a very big thing about that for me. But also the big thing is triggering emotions in other people, is giving them medicine. We want to be entertained, we want to laugh, we want to cry, we want to feel passion running through us and all these other things, and film's a medium that you can do that. So I love trying to get as much emotion into a scene as possible. And some of the most, you know, biggest compliments I get is someone will say something like, oh, I watched that film based on a short of yours and I cried, because it made me realize what I'm going through and how tough some of the things I have to deal with are.
So building that emotion, because screenwriting, obviously, without a screenwriter, you haven't got a film. So
blueprints.
Pardon?
It's the blueprint.
It literally, you can't build a house without having some design first. You want the design blocks. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And you're building that emotion before, obviously, camera shots and angles and editing and color and everything all adds up to that emotion. But without them written words of what they're going to say and where they're going to be, you haven't got it. So you are definitely the building blocks of it, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
So what resources have helped you throughout your journey?
I think, you know, a big thing for me was discovering how I learn personally and what works for me. You know, some people, you know, they learn kinesthetically, some people learn from sitting in lectures, some people learn in different ways. For me, it's listening to experts and reading books. And that was the big change for me, was being able to get books, put them on my Kindle, borrow them from the library, whatever you have to do, read through all this history, read through all this rich tapestry of what people had to say. And I have book lists that I can share. If people go to cjwalley.com, they can go and see a book list on there to see, you know, the kind of books I recommend. And that taught me so much. And that was the biggest thing. But it was also going to film festivals and stuff like that and listening to people in the industry.
And one thing I did check out was your Medium page.
Mm.
Is that like class as a blogging page? But whoever's watching this, I'd tell them definitely go to your Medium page, because there's some brilliant stuff on there in a really nice format as well. It's not so like when you get a lecture and it's very read this, do this. So yeah, your Medium page is really, really good.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Yeah, people can go to cjwalley.com. The Medium links on there. I share my blogs in every single platform I can. I've got a whole guide on how I write stuff. I put all my emotion in there. I put all my life lessons in there. I genuinely try to give people useful information.
And it is all very useful. I'm going to tell you that straight. So brilliant. Going into script revolution. Do you want to give us a little bit of information about that?
Yeah, so you know, like before I broke in, so to speak, I was trying to get my scripts out there, and there's all these different ways you can do that. Competitions, you can pitch, you can use consultants, you can get evaluations, things like that. Everything costs money. Nothing really seems to work very well. I've got less than 1% success rate, and it's all fleeting. You know, something gets discovered, they try to throw it at producers, no one's interested at that time. I realized that things take time to be noticed. And for years, I was like, why doesn't anyone build a platform? It's not that difficult, because I had the technical skills to do it. 20 years in web development. And it was July the 4th, 2016. And this name came up to me, Script Revolution. And I just did it. I just sat down for 2 or 3 months. It wasn't that long. It was more like 4 or 5 weeks, because it was up and running by August. And that's been going now for about 3.5 years. It's a completely free script hosting platform. People can upload all their material on there. It's completely open to filmmakers, because some of these other places, they're exclusive, they're cliques, not everyone can get in. People can go through and they can search. We're now over 6,000 members. We have nearly 7,000 scripts, and it now hosts the equivalent of $1.5 million a year worth of scripts. And that's being done altruistically. It's free to everybody, but I've gathered some Patreon support since, and people can become subscribers now and get some benefits. And we got a load of success stories. We had like 8 or 9 success stories last month.
Wow, man, that's crazy. That is, and you made that in 4 to 5 weeks. And you've got 6,000 people on it and 7,000 scripts, and you made that in 5 weeks. That shows that anything can be done. Like, and when people say, "Oh, we have to spend a lot of time on stuff," it shows that sometimes you can just go, "Boom, I'm going to do it, get it," and that's amazing. That's really, really good that you're offering something that you didn't have. You've set up something for what you didn't have. You learned that you needed it, and now people have got it. And I feel like unis need to know about this, because this would really help some young people that are struggling. So I think that's brilliant. You are all about helping people, aren't you, as well as also doing it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I just know how hard it is. I just know how, it's absolutely heartbreaking to not be breaking in and just thinking, how many years is it going to be? How much money am I going to have to spend? It's so hard to even survive on a career if you do start to get work. And it was this case of, I'm living this. I'm going to create something for the me who was coming in 4 years before that. And what's amazing about Script Revolution is it's spread entirely by word of mouth. The industry doesn't cover it. No big opinion leaders want to talk about it. It's quite a crooked and crony industry, to be honest. Stage 32 have spoken about it, which is fantastic. You know, Rich Botto from there, great friend, and they've spoken about it. But it's just screenwriters telling other screenwriters, and that's been wonderful to see. So it's a real grassroots, you know, bottom to top growth.
That's really good. The culture, it's just a culture that's come together. That's brilliant. That shows that you don't need to have the big advertisement of come here right now. We can save you money and stuff. It's like, no, I could tell you, almost like China's whispers. Sometimes it does work. Do you know what I mean? Like almost like, oh, have you seen this? And just word of mouth is incredible. Like, we are human beings, and what we like, we like talking. So might as well use that.
Exactly.
So going into COVID, because obviously that's like the big thing at the moment. How are you coping through COVID being a creative?
I mean, it's hit what I'm doing hard, because I had a film production, we were scheduling, we had a green light on, we were about to secure the funding on. We were aiming for July. We were talking to some great talent that I've dreamt about working with, great little festival script. And this is just completely just slashed through that. Everything stopped. You know, I've spent the last 9 months indoors writing like crazy. I wanted to do my 6 weeks out in LA, you know, and see people and socialize and all that. And that's just been, that's it. That's just been taken away from me. So, you know, that's been quite hard, but I'm trying to maximize opportunity, like you said previously, and you know, we were speaking before, maximize what you have. Don't sit around crying about it. And so I'm networking like crazy. I'm writing treatments, working with the producer I like working with, Shane. We're pitching ideas to people. We're talking about what are we going to do the day we can get going? What's going to happen? Let's get stuff ready for when we get to start again. Let's not sit around getting upset. Let's go for it. You know, let's help our friends, you know, in crew and cast. Let's get them work, because they've got nothing right now. It's a lot easier being a writer right now than it is being, you know, transfer or makeup or costume or anything like that. And of course, the actors have got nothing to work with at all. So, you know, getting ready for that. I'm blogging like crazy. I'm giving more features to Script Revolution. We brought in Stage 32 coupon for all the current Rockstar members on there. They can go watch any Stage 32 webinar for free this month. So, you know, trying to give them more because they need help too. So, yeah, just busying myself as much as possible in the virtual realm, which is where I'm familiar, really, to try and get work lined up.
Sounds like you're helping a lot of people as well, which is really, really good, because that's what you feel like you're spending a lot of time. If I can't help myself, I might as well help other people. And getting a plan, I feel like it's a brilliant idea, because you might as well, instead of doing itty-bitty plans and they come into the day and going, oh, what are we going to do now? When it happens, lockdown, you're out there. You're out that door. Do you know what I mean? Doing what you need.
That's it, exactly. You hit the floor running.
What are the plans then? Is it that film? What is the pipeline looking like for after COVID?
I mean, the weird thing is, so like once you get into the industry and you spend all this time trying to kind of get up the mountain and grab as many hands and hold a hand back down to the people below you and everything like that, and once you break in, it becomes even crazier, and the roller coaster just becomes more and more radical, because 1 second you've got 3 things and you know an investor's looking at them and you know they could make a decision that night, so you're awake at 4 a.m. waiting for a text to come through because of the time difference or whatever, and you're thinking, oh my god, this could happen, you know, this big feature film. So it's been a crazy few months where we've got quite a lot out there which could get greenlit at any time, but we did have this great little small, super low budget, very festival-esque film about the relationship between a middle-aged housewife and a older resident who's living on her property, and it was about life, it's about all these concepts about death and things like that. And we were all ready to go on that, but that's still poised. Like we've not had our fingers burned. We've got people we're talking to, so that's something that's in the pipeline. But we have this, you know, these other bigger kind of thrillers, very similar to Break Even that we want to dash out and make. So we've got like a portfolio right now, so like a dozen treatments, 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 maybe scripts right now that we're ready to get green light. We've got stuff scheduled, we've got stuff budgeted. So it's super exciting.
So to be honest, you don't need to really worry. Like you have actually, you're more excited. You're just ready now. You're like a dog on a leash that just needs releasing and stuff. Like, so that sounds brilliant. This sounds so, I'm so excited. It's going to be perfect for you. It's going to be like all your ideas are just flourishing.
Yeah.
It's just little bits and boom, it's going to be happening.
Yeah, I hope people notice Break Even. I hope we can get it out. But this is a shake-up, and shake-ups are great if you're feisty and you're lower down the totem pole.
Oh, definitely. Because I've noticed myself that since I've been like, oh, you can't do this, I've then made myself, I'm a bit like that anyway, but I've made myself like, well, okay, if I can't do that, I'm going to do this.
Nice.
So you've got to find something to do, but you're very motivating as well, so I'm going to probably do even more now.
Good.
Like, calm down. I'm like, I can't. What advice, like your main advice, would you give to someone that's a student who's doing screenwriting or filming, or just someone going newly into the industry? What would be your advice to them?
Well, I am quite critical of academia because I'm not really an academic myself. That doesn't work for me. School kind of let me down a little bit. And yeah, and to be honest, what I'm watching now is film schools and things like that. They've kind of jolted in a very tricky direction. And, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, but things like artistry and expression are being held back because we spoke about things like offending people and stuff like that before. And also typically, and I don't want to hate on academia again, but it's not very business orientated. It's not necessarily taught by people in the business. It's not actually making films happen. So I think people, if you are a student, you have to realize that you've been educated within an idealistic world. Academia is idealistic, and that's great. But I think every student, they need to read up on the history of film, read up on the auteur revolution of the 70s, read up on the backlot rebels of the 90s, understand what's been happening at the turn of the millennium, because that will give you an idea of what the business has been like and what the business is dealing with, because things are hard right now in certain areas of film. We're seeing this weird polarization. Blockbusters are costing $300 million and they're still losing money. And low budget films, that model, that long tail returns of DVD and video, that's all gone. So how do you make money in low budget films? So there's all that interesting world. People should learn the business. And I think they need to nurture their artistic voice because, and they need to do that in an unashamed way. They need to own what it is about who they are artistically, even if it offends, even if it upsets, even if it isn't necessarily politically correct right now. That's art. That's what art's like. It can be shocking. It can be hard-hitting. It can be uncomfortable. If you watch films from the 90s in particular, to the millennium, those independent films. Yeah. Now, I watched some of those. I was watching American Beauty the other day. I was thinking, would this even come out now, because of the controversial aspects? But that is life, and that's what life is like. And art is there to present these things, as uncomfortable as they may be. So definitely people need to nurture their true artistic voice, double down on it, go with it, own it. Don't be embarrassed about it. Don't be ashamed of it. And build an online persona and personal brand. Go out there, make, the biggest issue is people shelter themselves. And I see this all the time, particularly with writers, particularly with people who, because let's face it, a lot of us artists, we're quite meek, we're quite introverted, we're quite shy, we're not really business people, but it's such a fantastic environment right now. LinkedIn's incredible. LinkedIn's like the place to be right now. Stage 32, they kind of create the film version of LinkedIn, so to speak. My insight, Script Revolution. Go out there and blog and have something to say that's meaningful, even if it's just an opinion about film and about what we need to see, because there's going to potentially be industry members or members of your future tribe who see what you're saying and go, that connects with me on my wavelength. This person wants to make B movies. This person wants to make female empowerment movies. This person wants to make silent art films. This person wants to make a film about a vegan chef. Anything. Go and double down on that and bring those people in from around the world, and then just be patient whilst doing it. Give it a decade at least.
this is brilliant advice, because obviously I'm like that person that you're talking to, and that nurturing your artistic is brilliant advice. So if art was all the same, we'd all be sheep. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, okay, there is some stuff that probably is a bit, don't go and showing that the public. You can still write it.
Yeah.
You can write whatever you want. That's brilliant. And the patience is, it's hard, and be honest, because I'm stuck in it as well. And it's like, finish uni, come on, get at it and stuff. And it's like, nothing's happening. And I'm really trying. And it's like, but you've made such a good point that nothing, a plant doesn't grow from a seed in seconds, does it?
Oh, so I like that statement. That's very wise, and it's true. You know, and it builds very strong roots. It has to grow very strong roots to flourish, and you know, and it doesn't blossom until a certain point, even when it grows tall. So you know, that's a great analogy. But yeah, I always say give it at least 10 years. There's a lot of people that tell other people, give up, you're not got this, you're not got that, whatever. At least if you have to go and do another job at the same time, do it in the background, whatever, do it. But just keep chipping away, because it will seem like you're doing very insignificant things, but it all builds. It's just like you say, you're planting seeds and they just grow and grow and grow in the background. After a while, you just, I can't believe what this is all amounting to.
It's gonna be exciting, you know. It's gonna be really exciting. It's gonna be exciting for you and exciting for me. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to come to Stoke and then I can actually see you in person, hopefully. That's virtual and more real.
Absolutely.
Well, CJ, we've done all of my questions, and you're feeling brilliant, but I'm feeling brilliant after all of that, because just knowing your life and your journey, it's really made me feel enlightened, and like it makes you start writing things and stuff. And I struggle with dyslexia, and I'm hoping that now people have watched this and feel the same and use Script Revolution. Like, this needs to be known, because it sounds mint. It sounds like you're offering what people need. So
thank you. I mean, it's turning into a genuine little revolution. And you know, that dyslexia thing, you know, look at examples, you know, what inspired me, look at Guy Ritchie, look at Tarantino. You know, these are writers who their scripts got criticized early on, or they felt, you know, really embarrassed about making these errors. Nothing held them back. The industry wants artists, it doesn't want typists.
Oh, CJ, that sounds I love that. Oh, you need to be Prime Minister. You need to stand up there, because I'm getting good at this. It's brilliant. Well, if you've got anything to add, or
yeah, I was just going to say, at the moment, you know, going back to the COVID-19 issue at the moment and the plague that we're going through, right now, a lot of people in the industry, they really want to get back to work, and everyone's talking about when can we reopen sets and what can we get away with. You know, people like SAG, you know, Screen Actors Guild, DGA, everyone else, you know, they want to put rules in and things like that, and no one really knows what to do. And they're talking about, are we going to have to do tests on set, you know, kind of like shooting a porno or something, you know, and you've got to test everyone every day and everything like that. Everyone who's going to work on a set needs to make sure they stay safe and they are not pushed into doing something that's dangerous. That's so important, that people don't realize that they should not be pressured. If they end up on a set that's reopening as fast as it can, and they aren't sanitizing and they aren't, you know, going past those protocols, walk away, don't get involved. You know, a good set should maintain your safety all the time. Any set that I'm involved with, safety comes first before anything else. Not everything's like that. So I just want to say to anyone, do not get pushed into doing anything that risks you or anyone else's health right now.
I think that's a way to make it. I feel like people are rushing.
Yeah.
And there is no rush in this. They haven't said a day that we can do it yet. They've said months. So just calm down.
Yeah.
Do your pre-production stuff. Don't go do production or post-production unless you've got something to work on. There's always stuff to do. There is. Like researching. Research for one. There's never enough done, but like you said. So that's a really wise thing to end on, to be honest. But thank you so much, CJ, for this opportunity to speak. And I can't wait to see this break even. Really, really excited.
Good. I hope it comes out in the UK.
I hope so too. Really, really hope so. And if not, I'll have to just do a bit of illegal watching.
I'll pretend I didn't hear that. But if it does come out in the UK, I'm going to make a bit of a song and dance about it on social media if we get a broadcast date. But you never know. You never know. Let's hope.
It's gonna happen. It's definitely.
It'll pop up somewhere.
It will definitely just maybe after this COVID stuff, maybe before, we don't know. But I've got a good feeling. I've seen the trailer. It looks flipping mint. So Well, thank you so much, CJ, for today. And that's all from me, from Fyer-Huné from Fab Films. And yeah, so thank you, CJ.
Thank you very much. It's been great. Really enjoyed this.